So the first thing that I'm going to do, again, is just take the Hebrew letters, Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, Hey. I'm going to cover 5 today. And of course, I've written them here in their modern day form. If you were reading it in box form or block letter, you would see Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, Hey. But then let's take it into the concept of the Paleo Hebrew, and Aleph is an ox. And an ox is something, the concept behind it is that there is strength, that it's a leader, that it's first. But let's understand the greater concept behind, okay, so what does that mean, strength, a leader first? The concept, when they would see this particular symbol, would mean that there was an ox was an animal, a huge, massive, strong animal, stronger than all of the other livestock that they had at that time. And so when they wanted to plow a field, they would hook something up to the oxen, and that oxen with his strength would begin to plow up the ground that could not be done any other way. If you look at it as a leader or first, sometimes they would hook a younger oxen or an inexperienced oxen up. They would yoke 2 oxen together, a lead oxen with an oxen that was being trained, and they would yoke them together. And so the lead oxen, the one that had the most power and experience, would then train and teach the younger oxen of how to plow and how to work through difficult situations that would come up in the ground. Let's say if there was a huge rock, that oxen would then know how to pull his body to work to get that rock stirred up out of the ground so that it could be removed then by those who were helping the oxen or following the oxen around. So the concept is of just this one letter, that there is an oxen that pulls the heavy load because of its strength, and it's a lead oxen, meaning it's yoked with another oxen to teach it or to train it. A bait in the Paleo Hebrew, it represents a house, a temple, or a tent that they would live in. And so you can see that you come into the tent through the opening as far as the Paleo Hebrew goes. But it means that as you go, you have to go in to the tent. And inside the tent is a space that is filled with the things that would make it a household. And so you have the concept here that if you do not put anything inside of the tent like family or articles for the family to come together, then you just have empty space. Okay, so let's go to Gimel. Gimel was a camel, and so this represented, of course, an animal, but again, meaning to lift up or to carry, or it could have also represented pride. And so if they were talking about a prideful man, they would write 2 symbols, and it didn't necessarily spell a word in those days, okay? But the symbols told a story, and so they would use a gimel, what we know as a gimel today, but in those days it wasn't necessarily known as a gimel, but just this symbol. And then they would have used Oresh. Oresh is a man, and so it could have said prideful man, all right? Or it could have said the man was lifted up. You have to, again, put it into context and see what the other symbols around it are. Just giving you some ideas or some examples. And so our concept behind this particular letter is that a camel carried the expensive merchandise high up on its back. It lifted it, it came down low, they loaded the camel, and then the camel lifted it up so that the merchandise that it was carrying was the prized possession, and it was lifted up high. I got to keep going because we've got a lot to cover. Dalet here is written again. We understand that it is a door, and so you can see here the doorway to the tent. You've got to go through that opening or cross the threshold with a dalet. And so it simply means a door or a pathway that leads to something, and again, an entrance that takes you from one place that you leave into a new place. And so the concept behind it is that it is a threshold that is crossed, and it means that you are leaving. You're letting go of something back here to enter into a new dimension, into a new realm. The fifth letter that we're going to cover today is Hey, all right? And this simply was, well, let me just, of course it is a person here with their arms lifted up, which is a big key here. And there's a lot of Heys in these words here, and I don't know if you can see the distinction on the board. I've tried to underline the words that are in red of a different color are the ones that we're going to break down and cover this today. So Hey it means behold. It means a revelation. It's like when you tell somebody something, they go, oh, okay, so they're beholding something. It's a revelation to them, or it can mean breath, meaning something is being spoken, a revelation is being spoken, and the reaction is they are beholding the revelation.